First contact went wrong. Aliens discovered humanity's ancient power too late. Dr. Jiwoo Park stared at the massive alien vessel through the observatory telescope. The ship had appeared 2 days ago, hovering over the Pacific Ocean with a silent presence that had thrown the entire world into chaos. 6 others had positioned themselves strategically around Earth's major continents. Any response to our transmissions? She asked, not looking away from the telescope. Commander Hyun-ki Kim shook his head, his military uniform crisp despite the 36 sleepless hours he'd spent in the International Space Agency's Crisis Center. Nothing. The UN Security Council is meeting again in an hour, but no one knows what to do. Our satellites can't see inside their ships, and they haven't answered our messages. They're watching us, Ambassador Mincio Lee said, a usually calm face showing worry lines. Studying how we react before they make their move. The 3 of them had been quickly brought together to form Earth's first contact team, Jiwoo for her knowledge of possible alien languages, Hyun-ki for his military experience, and Mincio for her diplomatic skills. None of them had expected to use their training in their lifetimes. Wait, Jiwoo said suddenly, pointing to the main screen. Something's happening. A smaller craft had left the mothership, moving toward the United Nations headquarters in New York. At the same time, all electronic devices worldwide turned on with the same message in every language: people of Earth, we are the Valari. We come in peace and wish to talk with your leaders. The message was perfectly written but strangely empty of any feeling, like it had been copied from textbooks rather than spoken by someone who actually knew the languages. They've been listening to us, Hyun-ki said with concern. For how long, I wonder? Within hours, the United Earth Council, a group that had suddenly become humanity's most important governing body, voted to send people to meet the aliens. Jiwoo, Hyun-ki, and Mincio were the obvious choices. As they prepared to board the shuttle that would take them to the Valari command ship, Jiwoo noticed something odd about the aliens' messages. Their way of talking is changing, she told Hyun-ki quietly. It's subtle, but they're copying our speech patterns too quickly. There's something planned about it, like they're pretending to be what we want to see. What are you saying? He asked. I'm saying they might not be showing their true selves. Mincio joined them, holding her diplomatic case tightly. The council has given us limited power to talk with them. Our main goal is to establish peaceful intentions and learn why they're here. And if their intentions aren't peaceful? Hyun-ki asked, checking the gun he'd been allowed to carry, more for show than real protection. Then we're already in trouble, Mincio replied seriously. Their technology is far beyond ours. The moon base went silent shortly after they arrived, and we've lost contact with our Mars colony. If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done it already. Their shuttle took off from the Tokyo International Spaceport, one of the few places the aliens had said was acceptable. As they rose through the atmosphere, Jiwoo looked down at the beautiful blue planet below, wondering if this was the last time humans would decide Earth's future. The journey to the command ship took less than an hour, much faster than should have been possible. As they got closer, the true size of the alien vessel became clear. It was huge, at least 20 kilometers long, with a strange design that seemed to pulse with internal light. It doesn't look built, Jiwoo whispered. It looks grown. A door opened on the side of the massive ship, surrounding their shuttle in a field of blue energy that gently guided them inside. When the ramp lowered, they were met not by scary monsters from science fiction, but by beings that looked almost human, tall, thin figures with shimmering skin and large, entirely black eyes. Welcome, the first alien said in perfect Korean, clearly speaking to Jiwoo. I am High Commander Dowan of the Valari Expeditionary Fleet. We are pleased you have accepted our invitation. Jiwoo stepped forward, her heart beating fast. Thank you for receiving us. I am Dr. Jiwoo Park. This is Commander Hyun-ki Kim and Ambassador Mincio Lee. We represent Earth and its people. Come, Dowan said, gesturing with a 6-fingered hand. Science Director Somin awaits us in the meeting room. There is much to discuss. As they followed the alien through corridors that seemed to be part metal and part living tissue, Jiwoo couldn't shake the feeling that they were being scanned and studied with every step. When Hyun-ki caught her eye, she knew he felt it too. The meeting room was a large dome with a clear ceiling showing the stars and Earth below. Science Director Somin was already waiting, surrounded by floating images showing various scenes from Earth, cities, wilderness, and close-ups of human daily life. Fascinating species, Somin said without introduction. We have been watching your development for some time. Your quick technological growth is impressive for a species at your evolutionary stage. How long have you been watching us? Mincio asked diplomatically. Long enough to learn your languages and customs, Dowan replied smoothly. We represent the Galactic Concord, an alliance of 26 spacefaring civilizations. We have come to formally welcome humanity into our community of worlds. Jiwoo noticed the slight change in Somin's expression at these words, a tightening around the eyes that seemed oddly human for an alien face. That's very generous, Mincio replied carefully, but typically new relationships begin with cultural exchange and trade agreements, not with a fleet of warships. Not warships, Dowan corrected quickly. Exploration vessels. And we have already begun establishing cultural exchange outposts on your Mars colony and lunar base. Hyunki stiffened. Without permission. A misunderstanding, Somin jumped in. We assumed your outposts would welcome advanced technological help. As the conversation continued, Jiwoo let her eyes wander to the floating images, noticing they were focusing heavily on human brain scans and neural activity. When Somin offered to give them a tour of the cultural exchange facilities, she asked to use their bathroom first. The alien directed her to a side room, but instead of a bathroom, Jiwoo found herself in what appeared to be a data center. Acting on instinct, she approached a screen, surprised when it responded to her touch. The interface reorganized itself into Korean characters. What she saw made her blood run cold. Project classification, urgent containment subject species, human, terror, threat assessment, critical, potential mind storm carriers recommended action, immediate genetic suppression of the aberration. As the door slid open behind her, Jiwoo quickly stepped away from the screen. Commander Dowan stood there, his expression unreadable. Dr. Park, he said smoothly, you appear to be lost. The others are waiting. As she followed him back to the meeting room, Jiwoo's mind raced. Whatever the aberration was, these aliens feared it, and they had not come in peace. The Valari command ship was amazing technology that made humanity's most advanced space stations look like simple huts. As Ambassador Mincio Lee walked alongside High Commander Dowan, she couldn't help but feel very small and worried. Our civilizations have much to offer each other, Dowan was saying. The galactic concord has helped many species from planetary isolation to interstellar greatness. And what does Earth have to offer in return? Mincio asked carefully. Science Director Somin moved alongside them, her movements unnaturally smooth. Your biological diversity is quite remarkable. And of course, your cultural artifacts, your art, music, literature, these are always of interest to the Concord's anthropological division. Commander Hyunki Kim caught Mincio's eye, his expression doubtful. They both understood what wasn't being said. The aliens viewed humans as specimens, not equals. We've established preliminary outposts on your moon and Mars, Dowan continued, to help smoother integration. Within one generation, humanity could achieve technological advancement that would otherwise take centuries. That's very generous, Mincio replied diplomatically. But typically, such arrangements involve mutual consultation and consent. Dowan's expression flickered, a momentary lapse in his perfect composure. Of course, we merely sought to demonstrate our capabilities. These facilities are at your disposal. Dr. Jiwoo Park had been unusually quiet since returning from her brief absence. When she finally spoke, her voice was measured and cautious. I noticed your interfaces adapted immediately to our language. Your translation capabilities are remarkable. Somin nodded, seemingly pleased. Language acquisition is one of our specialties. I would be happy to demonstrate our linguistic database. I'd like that very much, Jiwoo replied. They were led to what the Valari called a knowledge exchange chamber, a circular room with crystal-like walls that projected three-dimensional displays of information. As Somin began demonstrating their language processing systems, Jiwoo moved closer to Hyunki and Mincio. They're hiding something, she whispered. I accessed one of their terminals. They're scanning for something they call the aberration in human brains. What does that mean? Hyunki asked. I don't know yet, but they've classified humans as carriers of something called a mind storm. Whatever it is, they consider it a threat. Mincio's diplomatic training kept her expression neutral despite the alarming news. We need to stall while you learn more. I'll request formal documentation of their proposed alliance terms. When Somin finished her demonstration, Mincio stepped forward with practiced diplomacy. This is all very impressive, Director Somin. For proper protocol, we'll need to present formal documentation to our governments. Perhaps we could establish a joint working group to draft the initial agreements. Certainly, Dowan replied. In the meantime, we've prepared accommodations for your extended stay aboard our vessel. Our people will expect us to return with preliminary findings, Hyunki countered. Of course, Somin said smoothly, but interstellar diplomacy is complex. It would be more efficient if you remained here to facilitate direct communication. We've already prepared extensive reports on the Concorde structure and benefits for your review. The guest quarters were luxurious but clearly designed based on human hotel rooms seen in media, not actual human living spaces. More concerning was the subtle hum in the walls that Jiwoo identified as scanning technology. They're monitoring everything, our conversations, vital signs, probably even our brain activity, she whispered as they gathered in Hyunki's room. Can you access more of their systems? Minseo asked. Jiwoo nodded. Their technology interfaces with neural patterns. They designed it for themselves, but human brains are similar enough that I can operate it with concentration. The problem is doing so without them noticing. Do it, Hyunki decided. Whatever they're planning, we need to know. While Minseo engaged Somin in elaborate discussions about cultural exchange protocols, a diplomatic stalling tactic she had mastered, Jiwoo gained access to the Valari database under the pretense of learning their language. What she discovered was far worse than they had imagined. The Valari weren't ambassadors, they were advanced scouts for a civilization that catalogued and categorized other species. Some were deemed suitable for uplift as client states. Others, those with certain genetic markers, were designated for modification or containment. Humans fell into the second category. They've detected latent neural patterns in human brains, Jiwoo explained when they reconvened. Something they called psionic potential. According to their records, it's extremely rare in the galaxy, and species with this potential eventually develop abilities that the Valari consider dangerous. What kind of abilities? Hyunki asked. Telepathy, telekinesis, mental manipulation. They believe it's dormant in humans but could activate under certain conditions. Minseo looked skeptical. Psychic powers? That's science fiction. To us, maybe, Jiwoo replied. But the Valari have encountered it before. There's reference to a species called the Midorians who developed these abilities and caused something called the Mind Storm incident. The Valari wiped them out. Hyunki's expression darkened. And now they're here to do the same to us. No, Jiwoo said grimly. Worse, they're planning to modify our genome, remove this potential entirely while keeping us as a client species. They've already begun taking human samples for testing. Their conversation was interrupted by a soft chime as the door slid open. A Valari they hadn't met before entered, closing the door quickly behind him. I am Subcommander Jaehwon, he said in a hushed tone. Not all Valari agree with the High Command's methods. Some of us believe species should develop naturally, even those with the aberration. I can help you. Hyunki moved protectively in front of the others. Why should we trust you? Because I've seen what happens when my people interfere with evolutionary paths, Jaehwon replied. And because your species deserves a choice in its own fate. The next morning, as they met again with Dowan and Somin, the Valari revealed their true intentions with surprising honesty. We've completed our preliminary assessment, Somin announced. Humanity will greatly benefit from genetic refinement before full integration into the Concord. Refinement? Minseo questioned. A simple procedure to remove certain evolutionary dead ends in your neural architecture, Dowan explained. These anomalies can cause instability in developing species. And if we decline this refinement? Hyunki asked. Dowan's expression hardened. It is not optional. The procedure will begin with your lunar and Mars colonists, then proceed to Earth. The process is painless and will not affect your cognitive functions, only remove potential abnormalities. As if on cue, their communication device is activated with an emergency signal from Earth. On every screen appeared footage of Valari ships descending on major cities worldwide. The invasion had begun while they were kept distracted by false diplomacy. You never intended peaceful contact, Minseo realized. Peace is precisely our intention, Somin replied. We are preventing the emergence of a threat that would destabilize this entire sector. You should be grateful. Security alarms blared throughout the Valari command ship as Subcommander Jaehwon led the human delegation through a series of maintenance corridors. The High Command has moved up their timeline, he explained, his voice low and urgent. The genetic suppression program has already begun on your lunar colony. Dr. Jiwoo Park felt sick. What exactly are they doing to our people? The procedure targets neural pathways associated with what we call the aberration, the biological structures that enable psionic abilities. Jaewon's expression was grim. It's painless but irreversible. Commander Hyunki Kim's military training took over. We need to get back to Earth immediately. Our people need to know what they're facing. That won't be possible through conventional means, Jaehwon replied. But there is another way. Some of us have been studying the aberration for generations. We believe it may be possible to communicate across vast distances using these abilities. Ambassador Minseo Lee looked skeptical. You're suggesting telepathy? Even if these abilities exist in humans, none of us have shown them. Not yet, Jaehwon said. But under extreme stress or necessity, the dormant pathways can activate. It's why the High Command fears your species. Your potential awakens precisely when you need it most. they reached what appeared to be a small hangar bay containing several shuttlecraft. As Jae-hwan worked to prepare one for launch, Ji-woo studied the alien's features. "Why are you helping us?" "You're risking everything." Jae-hwan's movements paused briefly. "My people once had the same potential as yours. The High Command's ancestors removed it from our genome thousands of years ago, claiming it was for our protection. I've come to believe it was the greatest crime in our history, cutting us off from an entire dimension of existence out of fear." On the main deck of the Valari command ship, High Commander Dowan received troubling reports from Earth. Multiple observation posts report unusual neural activity in the human subjects, Science Director Somin informed him. "The patterns match early-stage aberration awakening." "Impossible," Dowan replied. "Their species hasn't shown any active manifestation in the centuries we've monitored them. The pattern is unmistakable, and it's spreading." Somin's usually composed demeanor showed cracks of concern. "We've already lost contact with the Beijing observation post." On Earth, chaos reigned. The Valari had established medical processing centers in major cities worldwide, claiming to offer technological medical advancements while secretly screening for psionic potential. Most humans went willingly, lured by promises of enhanced health and longer life. Those who resisted were taken by force. In rural Gyeonggi Province, South Korea, 16-year-old Do-yoon Kim hid in the forest as Valari soldiers searched the countryside. His parents had been taken the day before, marched onto one of the alien ships along with everyone else from their village. As the soldiers drew closer to his hiding place, Do-yoon felt something strange, a pressure building inside his head, a warmth spreading through his body. When a soldier's hand reached into the hollow tree where he had hidden himself, Do-yoon's fear peaked. What happened next was beyond explanation. The soldier was thrown backward as if hit by an invisible force. The other soldiers raised their weapons, but these too were pulled from their hands, floating in midair before being crushed into twisted metal. Terrified, Do-yoon ran, not understanding what had happened. But across the planet, similar incidents were occurring. In Brazil, a mother lifted a vehicle to save her child trapped underneath, not with her muscles, but with her mind. In Egypt, a cornered protester unknowingly created a barrier of energy that repelled Valari weapons. Back on the command ship, Jae-hwan had successfully helped the human delegation board a shuttle. As they prepared to launch, alarms got louder. "They've discovered us," he warned, hands flying over the controls. "Can we break through their defenses?" Hyun-ki asked. "Not conventionally," Jae-hwan replied. "But if one of you could access the dormant abilities." "That's theoretical," Min-seo argued. "We can't base our escape on." She was interrupted by Ji-woo's gasp. The linguist had closed her eyes in concentration, and now a trickle of blood ran from her nose. "I can feel something," Ji-woo whispered. "Like a door in my mind I never knew existed." "Focus on it," Jae-hwan urged. "Visualize opening that door." As Valari security forces converged on the hangar, Ji-woo concentrated harder. Sweat beaded on her forehead, and the blood flow from her nose increased. Suddenly, the ship's security systems deactivated, and the hangar doors began to open. "How did you do that?" Hyun-ki asked in astonishment. "I don't know," Ji-woo replied weakly. "I just reached out with my thoughts and could somehow see the system's architecture in my mind." They launched into space just as the security forces breached the hangar. As their shuttle accelerated toward Earth, Jae-hwan explained what was happening. "It's beginning, what my people have feared for generations. Under the stress of invasion, human psionic potential is awakening." On Earth, High Commander Dowan had established a command center in what was once the United Nations building in New York. As reports flooded in of humans displaying unexpected abilities, his concern grew to alarm. "Initiate protocol suppression," he ordered. "All human subjects demonstrating Class 1 or higher aberration manifestations are to be immediately terminated. The rest are to undergo genetic modification without delay." Science Director Somin objected. "Commander, we don't have the resources to process 8 billion humans simultaneously, and the growing resistance, then we will reduce their numbers to a manageable population," Dowan interrupted coldly. "Prepare the fleet for orbital bombardment of secondary population centers." The human delegation shuttle entered Earth's atmosphere just as the first Valari weapons fired from orbit. As cities around the world came under attack, mass panic triggered more psionic awakenings. In Seoul, Sujin Kang watched in horror as energy beams from orbit destroyed the city center. When a secondary blast headed directly for her apartment building, something inside her snapped. She threw up her hands instinctively, and to her shock, a shimmering field of energy formed around the building, deflecting the beam. Similar scenes played out globally. Human psionic abilities manifested in countless forms, some creating protective shields, others developing telepathic connections, still others demonstrating telekinetic capabilities. The human delegation landed their shuttle in the mountains outside Seoul. immediately making contact with what remained of the South Korean government. We need to coordinate globally, Hyun-ki insisted during an emergency meeting. The Valari fear these abilities for a reason, they must be our greatest weapon. But most people can't control what's happening to them, a government official objected. These powers are appearing randomly, unpredictably. Not randomly, Jiwoo corrected. There's a pattern. The abilities emerge in response to threat, and they seem tailored to the individual's needs in that moment. As they strategized, Jae-won revealed more about what the Valari called the Mind Storm. In our historical records, when a species with psionic potential faces extinction, a critical mass of awakenings can occur. Individual minds begin to link, creating a collective consciousness of immense power. The last time this happened, an entire Valari fleet was destroyed by a single planetary civilization. Is that possible for humans? Minseo asked. Theoretically, Jae-won confirmed, but it would require thousands of awakened individuals working together, something that has never been successfully documented. Outside the command center, Do-yoon Kim had been brought in after his encounter with the Valari soldiers. Jiwoo approached the frightened teenager, recognizing in him a more advanced manifestation than her own emerging abilities. You're not alone, she told him gently. What you're experiencing, it's happening all over the world. I don't understand what's happening to me, Do-yoon confessed. I was so scared, and then suddenly, it was like I could feel the energy around me and bend it to my will. It's part of being human, Jiwoo explained, understanding now what the Valari truly feared. A potential we've always had but never needed to access until now. As night fell, the Valari intensified their attacks, systematically targeting areas where psionic manifestations had been reported. But with each attack, more humans awakened to their abilities. The hidden power that had lain dormant in human DNA for thousands of years was finally emerging, and the Valari were too late to stop it. Dawn broke over a changed world. Major cities lay in ruins from the Valari orbital bombardment, but humanity had not broken. Instead, something remarkable was happening. In the mountains outside Seoul, Dr. Jiwoo Park stood with her eyes closed, connected to a network of minds that spanned continents. What had begun as a trickle of awakened individuals had become a flood. Thousands, perhaps tens of thousands, of humans worldwide had accessed their dormant psionic abilities in the face of extinction. They're communicating, she told Commander Hyun-ki Kim as she opened her eyes. Spontaneous telepathic networks are forming. People who've never met are coordinating resistance efforts across vast distances. Hyun-ki had spent the night organizing what military forces remained into a cohesive resistance. Can you link with them? We need to coordinate our attacks. I'm trying, Jiwoo admitted. My abilities are still developing, but Do-yoon is stronger. He's already connected to networks across Asia. The teenage boy sat cross-legged nearby, eyes closed in deep concentration. Occasionally, he would speak coordinate or tactical information that Hyun-ki's officers would rapidly verify as accurate. Ambassador Minseo Lee entered the command center with Subcommander Jae-won. We've made contact with what's left of the European Union leadership. Similar awakenings are happening there. They've even managed to disable a Valari ground transport using telekinetic abilities. It's happening faster than even I expected, Jae-won said, his expression a mixture of awe and concern. The pressure of imminent extinction is accelerating the awakening process. But we're still losing, Hyun-ki pointed out grimly. For every ship we disable, they deploy 3 more. We need something more. The Mind Storm, Jiwoo said quietly. Jae-won, you said it requires thousands of awakened minds working together. We must have that many by now. Yes, but coordination is the key, the Valari explained. Individual abilities, even linked in small networks, can't generate enough power. You would need a focal point, someone with extraordinary capacity to channel the collective energy. All eyes turned to Do-yoon, who had become still, a trickle of blood running from his nose. They're coming, the boy whispered. They know what we're planning. Above them, the clouds parted as a massive Valari ship descended toward the mountain base. Get everyone to the bunkers, Hyun-ki shouted, but Jiwoo remained motionless. No, she said with sudden clarity. This is what we need, the catalyst. Under maximum threat, our abilities will fully manifest. That's suicide, Minseo argued. It's our only chance, Jiwoo countered. Gather everyone with awakened abilities. We need to attempt the Mind Storm. On the Valari command ship, High Commander Dowan reviewed the latest reports with growing alarm. The aberration manifestations are increasing exponentially, Science Director Somin informed him, and they're beginning to link, primitive network formation similar to the Midorian patterns before their containment. We should have bombarded the planet immediately upon arrival, Dowan said bitterly. Now we face a species-wide awakening. There may still be time, Somin suggested. If we target their largest concentration of awakened individuals, we might prevent the critical mass needed for a mind storm. Locate them, Dowen ordered. Divert all available ships. In cities worldwide, humans with newly awakened abilities organized resistance cells. In Tokyo, Jinho Quan discovered he could disrupt electronic systems with his thoughts, rendering Valari weapons useless. In Cairo, Yoon Ji-han found she could heal injuries by redirecting cellular energy. As each person discovered their unique abilities, they joined the growing telepathic network. At the mountain base, Jiwoo gathered with 50 others who had manifested the strongest psionic signatures. They formed a circle around Do-yoon, who had emerged as naturally gifted in linking minds. We need to synchronize, Jiwoo instructed. Focus on Do-yoon. Let him be our conduit. As they concentrated, Jiwoo felt her consciousness expand beyond her physical form. She could sense the others, their fears, hopes, determination, and beyond them, other networks forming across the globe. It was dizzying, overwhelming, yet somehow she maintained her sense of self within the growing collective. Hyunki watched in amazement as visible energy began to gather around the circle. The air hummed with power, and small objects around the room began to float. It's working, Jae-won whispered. They're generating a psionic field. Above them, the Valari ship opened fire. The first energy blast struck the mountainside, causing the facility to shake violently. As debris fell around them, the circle maintained their concentration. Stay focused, Jiwoo called out, blood now streaming from her nose and ears. Connect to the other networks. Do-yoon's voice, when he spoke, seemed to come from everywhere at once. I can feel them, thousands of minds reaching out. But we need more power to affect the ships in orbit. Jae-won stepped forward unexpectedly. Use me. My people once had this gift, perhaps enough remains in our genetic memory. Without waiting for permission, he joined the circle, placing his hands on Do-yoon's shoulders. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The energy field expanded explosively, enveloping the entire facility in a dome of shimmering light that absorbed the next Valari blast completely. Through their connected minds, Jiwoo could suddenly access knowledge she'd never possessed: Valari ship schematics, weapon systems, defensive capabilities. Jaewon's mind was providing the technical understanding they needed. I see it now, she gasped. Their ships, they're vulnerable to certain psionic frequencies. If we can generate enough power. The Valari ship fired again, this time with its main weapon. The energy dome flickered but held as the circle's concentration intensified. Across the planet, other awakened humans sensed what was happening. In an unprecedented display of unity, thousands of minds turned their attention toward the battle in Korea, adding their energy to the growing storm. Jiwoo felt the surge as a physical force rushing through her body. Her vision blurred, showing her glimpses of people around the world, all connected, all focusing their newfound abilities on a single purpose. Now, she commanded, and as one, the linked minds pushed outward. The effect was visible from orbit, a pulse of energy erupting from the Korean peninsula, spreading outward like ripples in a pond. As it reached the Valari ships, their systems began to fail. Massive vessels drifted powerless, while smaller craft fell to earth. In New York, High Commander Dowen watched in horror as the command center's systems flickered and died. Impossible, he whispered as reports flooded in of ships losing power worldwide. It's happened, Science Director Somin said quietly. The mindstorm has begun. Night had fallen across Asia when the Valari launched their final offensive. Having recognized the threat that awakened humans posed, High Commander Dowen had committed his entire fleet to a single purpose: the removal of all human life. We cannot allow the mindstorm to fully manifest, he told his commanders. Clean the planet's surface. No survivors. But humanity had been preparing. In the 24 hours since the first coordinated psionic attack, thousands more humans had awakened to their abilities. What had begun as isolated pockets of resistance had evolved into a global network of minds, all connected through the growing telepathic web. At the mountain base in Korea, Dr. Jiwoo Park stood with Ambassador Min-seo Lee and Commander Hyunki Kim as they watched massive Valari warships descend through the atmosphere worldwide. They're positioning for a simultaneous attack, Hyunki observed grimly. Once they're in the lower atmosphere, they'll be able to cover the entire surface. Then we strike before they can fire, Jiwoo said, her voice stronger than it had been hours before. Her abilities had grown exponentially as she had learned to control the psionic energy flowing through her. Do-yoon Kim, the teenager who had become a focal point for the Asian telepathic network, approached them. Everyone is ready. We have connection with all 7 continental networks. What had once been conference rooms and military offices had been transformed into a psionic command center. Hundreds of awakened humans sat in concentric circles, many bleeding from their noses or ears, but all maintaining their concentration despite the physical toll. Sub-Commander Jaehwan, the Valari defector, provided critical technical guidance. The ship's main weapons draw power from a central core. If you can disrupt the energy flow, you might trigger a cascade failure across their fleet. Jiwoo nodded, then took her place at the center of the innermost circle. Do-yoon sat opposite her, while other particularly strong psychics formed the points of a perfect octagon around them. Remember, she told them, we're not just fighting for survival. We're fighting for our future, for the right to evolve as nature intended. As they joined hands, Jiwoo closed her eyes and opened her mind. The sensation was both familiar and overwhelming, like diving into an ocean of consciousness. She could feel the unique signature of each mind connected to the network, from the powerful presence of Do-yoon beside her to the faintest whispers of newly awakened individuals on distant continents. Through this vast web of connected minds, she could perceive the Valari ships, massive constructs of metal and energy hovering above major population centers. She could sense the build-up of power in their weapon systems, the countdown to planetary bombardment. Focus with me, she projected to the network. See the ships, feel their energy systems. Find the patterns in their power distribution. Across the globe, thousands of minds turned their attention upward. In Australia, Minji Song directed her regional network to concentrate on the propulsion systems. In Brazil, Junho Choi led his group in targeting communication arrays. Each continental network took responsibility for disrupting different aspects of the Valari fleet. In orbit, Science Director Somin noticed the first anomalies. Energy fluctuations detected in multiple vessels, she reported to Dowan. Pattern matches previous psionic interference. Jiwoo felt the moment when the separate networks synchronized. It was like separate instruments suddenly joining in perfect harmony, creating music of unimaginable power and complexity. Through Do-yoon and the other focal points, the collective energy of humanity's awakened potential flowed outward. The first signs of the Mindstorm's effect were visible from the ground, Valari ships beginning to drift from their carefully maintained positions, lights flickering across their massive hulls. Then came the energy discharges, as systems overloaded and released their power harmlessly into the atmosphere in brilliant displays of light. It's working, Hyunki breathed as he monitored reports from around the world. Inside the Valari command ship, chaos reigned. Multiple system failures across the fleet, an officer reported frantically. Weapons offline. Life support compromised.